This video is on multiplying polynomials. To multiply two or more polynomials, use the distributive property. Each term of the first polynomial needs to be multiplied by each term of the second polynomial. Recall that to multiply monomials with the same base, you multiply the coefficients and add their exponents. So for example, 3x to the fifth times 6x squared is 18x to the seventh. I multiplied 3 times 6 to get 18, and then remember x to the fifth is x times itself five times. X squared is x times itself twice, so that gives me a total of 7 x's, so 18x to the seventh. Let's take a look at a couple examples here. First one says 4n squared times the quantity 5n cubed minus 2n. So I want to take this 4n squared and multiply it by both terms in the binomial. So 4n squared times 5n to the third power is going to give me 20. That's 4 times 5. N to the fifth. Remember, I add my exponents. And now I'm going to do 4n squared. Let's multiply it by a negative 2n. That's going to give me negative 8n to the third, because remember n here is really n to the 1. Now that's when you multiply a monomial by a polynomial. Now when we have two binomials, it's a little bit more complicated, but the same idea applies. I'm going to take this first term, the 3x, and multiply it by each term in the second polynomial. So let's go ahead and do that. So 3x times 6x is going to give me an 18x squared, because 3 times 6 is 18, x times x is x squared. And then 3x times a negative 1 is going to give me negative 3x. Now I'm going to take this 5, the second term in the first binomial, and multiply it by each of these. So 5 times 6x is going to give me a positive 30x. And 5 times negative 1 is going to give me a negative 5. Now I do have some like terms to combine, these here in the middle. So my final answer is going to be 18x squared, and negative 3x plus 30x is a positive 27x minus 5. And that's my final answer. My next example here is a binomial times a trinomial. So I'm going to do this the same way. I'm going to start with my first term a, and I'm going to multiply it by each term in the trinomial. And I'm not going to draw all my arrows now. I'm going to do them one at a time here. So a times 6a squared is going to give me 6a to the third. A times negative 8a is going to give me negative 8a squared. A times 3 is going to give me a plus 3a. Now I'm going to take a negative 2 and multiply it by each term here. So negative 2 times 6a squared is going to give me a negative 12a squared. Negative 2 times negative 8a is going to give me a positive 16a. And negative 2 times 3 is going to give me a negative 6. So you might have noticed the way that I wrote this instead of writing it all in a line. I know that when I combine like terms, I need to combine the monomials that have the same base raised to the same power. So I decided to kind of do it in a column fashion and put my a squareds in a column and my a's in a column. So this is going to make it a little bit easier now when I go to combine like terms. So 6a cubed, negative 8a squared minus 12a squared is a negative 20a squared. 3 plus 16 is 19a. And minus 6. I find this way a little bit easier when I've got like a binomial times a trinomial, or maybe two trinomials times each other. So there's my final answer. So here are a couple problems that I'd like you to try on your own. So stop the video and do these two practice problems in your math journal. Okay, let's take a look at these two problems here. So I have negative 3 times the binomial k plus 2 times the binomial 2k minus 7. Notice, and please be careful, that 3 does not get distributed to both binomials. This is basically three things being multiplied: a negative 3, a k plus 2, and a 2k minus 7. So you can do it however you like. You could multiply the two binomials first and then multiply the whole thing by negative 3, or distribute the 3 to one of the binomials and then multiply the two binomials. Maybe I'll do it that way. I'm going to do the 3 times the k plus 2. So that's going to give me a negative 3k minus 6, and that is a binomial, so I'm going to put that in parentheses. And now that is going to get multiplied by 2k minus 7. So now distributive property. Negative 3k times 6k and negative 3k times negative 7 is going to give me a negative 6k squared plus 21k. Oops. And now negative 6 times 2k is going to give me, whoops, oh, I lost that, there we go, is going to give me a negative 12k. Negative 6 times negative 7 is going to give me a positive 42. And now combining like terms, I'm going to get negative 6k squared. 21 minus 12 is a positive 9k plus 42. And that's my final answer. Oh, here we go. Now we have two trinomials to multiply times each other. So I'm going to do it kind of in the column way that I did in the first example. So let's start with 2x squared times 3x squared. That's going to give me 6x to the fourth. Remember, multiply the coefficients and add the exponents on the variables. 2x squared times 2x is going to give me a positive 4x to the third. And 2x squared times negative 1 is going to give me a negative 2x squared. Okay, now let's go to our second term. Negative 4x times 3x is going to give me a negative 12x to the third. Negative 4x times 2x is going to give me a negative 8x squared. And negative 4x times negative 1 is going to give me a positive 4x. And I've kind of run out of room here. So you know what, I think I'm going to change color briefly here so it kind of stands out a little bit. Okay, now I need to do the 9 times each one of these. So that's going to give me 27x squared. 9 times 2x is going to give me a plus 18x. And 9 times negative 1 gives me a negative 9. I'm going to go back to black here to add them up. Okay, now I need to add up all of those terms. So that's going to be 6x to the fourth minus 8x cubed, and I'm just combining coefficients here. And negative 2 minus 8 plus 27 is going to give me a positive 17x squared plus 22x minus 9. And that's my answer. So in this video we saw how to multiply two or more polynomials actually, by using the distributive property. If it's a monomial times a polynomial, just simply distribute. If it's two binomials or a binomial and a trinomial, or two trinomials, use the distributive property and make sure that each term of the first polynomial is multiplied by each term of the second polynomial.